For today's review, we are looking at John Constantine from the Black Adam Page Punchers wave, and before I talk about the accessories and the figure, let's take a quick look at the data profile card, and as you can see, it is the same artwork that we have seen before, and on the backside, you do get your usual read-up for who the character is. It reads, John Constantine wields the dark arts to save his soul, as well as the earth itself. An expert sorcerer and magician, Constantine isn't known for his glowing personality, but when it comes to the occult, he's the best investigator there is. A notorious man with skeletons in his closet, Constantine's moral compass is as gray as can be, but deep down he wants to do the right thing. And that's a pretty good read-up on who this character is. That is the data profile card. Now let's move on to the accessories that are included with this figure. Let's start with the book accessory that he comes with. And of course, since he is a sorcerer, he's going to have his magic spell book. And as you can see, the sculpting of this book is already opened. It's meant to go between his fingers for the left hand. I'll show what that looks like later. And for the overall sculpt here for the cover, I do like the fact that there are some textured details here to make it look like it's made out of some sort of like leather material of some kind. You do have sculpting on the spine here for the edges, as well as the cover of the book having this sort of insignia of some kind, right? So that's pretty cool. Now the downside of this is the fact that there is nothing for the pages. It's all blank. There's no details, there's no printing. So if you want to add some sort of detail in here to make it look like he's actually reading through something, you could. That's an option. I don't know how I would do it, but there's numerous ways to do it. So that is a custom option right there for anyone who doesn't want to leave this book accessory blank. And that is the first accessory. For the second accessory that he comes with, it is this hand gesture dash effect part. So this is him using some sort of spell, like he's about to cast something, right? And for this effect part here, I really like how all of this is sculpted. You can see these lines, the orange color. It just has a nice sort of look to it. And of course, it is the same symbol that you see on the book, which is actually pretty cool. Now, the funny thing here is that the hand that is molded to the back part of this effect part is way bigger than his hand that you see for his right arm here. It doesn't really look like the same hands. I think they made this way too big than it should be. So that's something I do want to point out. And another thing is that I wish he came with a few more of these sort of like, spell casting hand gestures of some kind, because having a few more of these would actually make the figure really fun to pose. I feel like just having this in the book is just, not really enough here for a character like this who is a sorcerer. So, but yeah, I will show what this looked like on the figure later as well. So there is this accessory, and that is pretty much it for the accessories that he comes with. If you want to count this as an accessory, you could, but this is always given anyways. So there is the DC figure stand. And of course, since this is a page puncher, he does come with a comic book. I'm going to move the action figure out of the way. It is the same comic book that we have gotten before. There's nothing new here. It's the same story. Everything's the same inside. So yeah, not great having duplicates of the same issues included with all four figures, because, for someone like me who has the entire wave, I don't know what to do with those extra issues of these comic books. They're just sitting there. So there's that. And now let's bring the action figure back to the review station, and let's talk about the aesthetics of this figure. So in terms of the overall sculpting here, this is exactly what John Constantine looks like. Anytime you've seen this character in animations, even in his live action depictions, this is what he wears. Well, except for the Keanu Reeves version. He wore like very different clothing. But, the one that came after, I don't know the actor's name, but he was in Legends of Tomorrow. He also had his own show, I believe, before that. This is exactly what he wears. A trench coat, an undershirt that's white. He has his tie, right? All of this. So this is exactly John Constantine. He's a very regular looking dude. So yeah, I think they got the overall design down really good right here. Let's talk about those details though. So for the sculpted trench coat here, even though it's not a cloth material, I like the fact that it's actually sculpted really nicely. There's not a whole lot of cuts here except for like the part right here for his arms. So overall, the trench coat looks really nice. Now, if you don't like the fact that it looks so clean because, you know, this character, he's always on the move. His coat looks very worn out sometimes, right? You could add a bit of black wash to it to give it this sort of worn out look if you want to. Now, for the actual figure, there is a little bit of a wash. I don't know if my camera is going to pick it up, but it's there, but it's just not like completely visible. So this is a custom thing that you could probably do if you do customize your action figures, so that's an option. For the under part of his shirt here, there is a bit of a wash as well to give it that sort of like dirtiness as well. So yeah, it's there. Again, my camera is not picking that up that great, so but yeah, there's that. And then of course his tie is not really tucked in correctly, right? Like he's just a mess. He looks like a mess. Even his pants, look at the way that these are sculpted. So there's a little bit of some damages right here, like it's been worn, like he's been wearing these pants for a long time. He also has a rip right there for his knee area. So these are not new pants. There is a little bit of that detail, as you can see. And then for his shoes, you could probably add a little bit of a wash to it to give it that worn out look as well. So yeah, when it comes to the overall sculpting of what he's wearing, it's pretty good in my opinion. But of course, as I said, you could add a little bit of a wash to it to give it more of that worn outness if you don't like the cleanness of the way that this figure looks. And for his head sculpt, it's a pretty good head sculpt for John Constantine. It does have a little bit of the side eyes, though, from some angles, right? Like he's staring off to the side. But from this angle, he kind of looks like he's staring straight at you. So very interesting what they did with the eyes. And for the hair sculpt here, it is a pretty good sculpted hair. It does have a little bit of the wash for the paint here. So yeah, overall, when it comes to the aesthetics of this figure, I think they did a pretty good job here for a John Constantine. And I don't know what else to say about it. I'm just happy that they made a John Constantine figure in this line, and it came out to be a pretty good one. All right, let's move on to the articulation of this figure. Let's start with his head sculpt. So he can look up. Not exactly the best because, as you can see, his trench coat, he does have a collar right here, so it does run into the back part of his head sculpt. So he's not going to be looking up like completely all the way. When it comes to looking down, there's no problems. Turning his head left and right, he can do that. He can also tilt his head side to side. So the articulation for the head sculpt is pretty decent in some areas, but not when it comes to looking up. For his arms, he can spread them up this high. He can also swing them back and forth with no issues. He does have a bicep swivel right there. He also has the double jointed in the arms, as well as swivel in the hands. When it comes to wrist articulation, it does work, so there is that. Now his hands are popping off when I do that, so it's not really the best wrist articulation. And for his torso, his upper torso, it doesn't really move on my copy. Let me see if I can get it to move. No, it's like really stiff in there. Like, you're not going to really move this a whole lot because of the fact that this trench coat is actually a solid, like, plastic. Like, it is kind of soft, but it is, like, really restricting on the inner articulation here for the upper torso. And then for his waist, you can get it to move, right? It does move, but that's about it. Like, it's not going to lean forward, it's not going to lean backwards, and you're not going to have this character leaning in any sort of direction because this trench coat is going to restrict most of the movement. For his legs, he can kick out about this high, so that's pretty much all you can do. He does have double jointed in the legs. There we go. It doesn't look great. It looks really ugly right there, as you can see when you do use the joint. For his feet down here, there is a little bit of articulation. There is swivel and there is toe articulation. And when it comes to spreading his legs out, you're not going to get that either because this coat is going to hinder his articulation with the legs. So you're not getting this guy into any crazy action poses, right? And usually he doesn't really do much crazy action poses anyways. He's not like a very agile character because he is a sorcerer, so there is that. And then for the thigh swivels, do they work? Not on this leg. Not on this leg. Nope, they do not work. So there is the articulation for Constantine. And now let's put on some accessories that he comes with onto the figure. So let's start with the spell casting hand. Very simple. You just pop off this hand, which came off really easily. And all you do is you just take this, you kind of just slowly put it in there. There we go. There's a click noise. And now you can have him like having his hand like this of some kind, like he's about to use a spell. And then for this hand, as you can see with the way that this hand gesture here is molded, it is meant for him to hold the book. Now I've seen some people like sculpt a a little paper cigarette thing to have on, I think this hand, or was it this hand or the other hand? It was one of these hand gestures to make it look like he's smoking, because he does smoke cigarettes, if I remember correctly. So there's that. But you can have him hold this book with this hand right here. I forgot how you put this on. How do you do this? Let's... Come on, go in. There we go. There we go. No, right? Am I doing it correctly? Is it going in? I haven't had this guy pose with the book in a while, actually. It does not want to go into his hand. Oh, there we go. There we go. Okay, you just have to kind of like get it in there. Now, I didn't really like put it in the best way. Okay, it does not want to stay in between his fingers. But there you have it. So it's like something like this, right? Like you have him holding it in between in the middle area. And you can have him like just holding it with this arm over here while he's like kind of like looking at it. And then casting a spell with his other hand of some kind. So there you go. There he is with his accessories. Pretty cool, right? So yeah, that's pretty much the pose that you can go for. You can get creative. You don't have to have him hold the book all the time. You can just have him with this hand equipped as well. So, but yeah, get creative. There are ways to pose this guy. And now let me just set him up right here. Hopefully he does not fall, so we can do some comparisons with some other figures. And let's start with one figure from this wave, of course, his wave mate. Here he is next to Black Adam. There they are together. And they are looking very interesting. These are two characters I never think would ever interact, but, you know, there is always a possibility for that. So, there is Black Adam. And here he is next to something that's not a DC Multiverse figure. This is the Knuckles figure from Sonic 3. And as you can see, Constantine is definitely taller than Knuckles. But in terms of scaling here, it kind of works. I think a 7-inch scale figure could scale well with these Sonic figures if you want like a human companion for, you know, this guy right here. So that's just my opinion on that. And for the last figure we are bringing in for today's comparison, here he is next to the Silver Age Superman. And yeah, that's another option right there. Superman and John Constantine working together. So there we go. That is the comparisons for today. And if you found today's review of this John Constantine figure informative, do give this video a like. If you want to subscribe to the channel for more action figure content and whatever else I do on here, it would be much appreciated. And with that said, take care, and I will see you in the next video.